Hello and welcome in, all you cool cats and kittens, right? Remember that? I don't know why that pops into my brain every couple of months. This is your Wednesday live chat. We've got WWT Championship. We've got an event in Abu Dhabi starting tonight with a very, very good field. I am back at home for the first time in what feels like forever. We are in the midst of, we just wrapped up a 24-hour travel day. So we got home just a couple of hours ago. I will be crashing soon, but it will not be before we do this live chat together. So anything you want to talk about, questions, comments, concerns, throw them all in the chat right now, and we'll go through as many of them as we possibly can. Let's start with a couple of items before we get to the questions. These are the two things that we always cover at the top. It's Cabo. Here's the weather. It is very, very consistent throughout the week, right? High 70s, potentially low 80s in terms of temperature. No chance of rain. So wind is the only thing that we're going to keep an eye on here as well. Thursday afternoon, actually Thursday in general is the windiest day. It does get a little bit windier in the afternoon, goes from about 10 or 11 miles an hour to 14 miles an hour. Not a huge deal, but something to look at. And then Friday morning looks pretty calm, and it kicks back up on Friday afternoon. So I guess the option is, do you want to play in like 13-mile-an-hour wind and then 5-mile-an-hour wind? I think the problem is with that is the wind on Friday comes a little bit earlier than it does on Thursday. So I think you probably want to be in Thursday morning, Friday afternoon. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but if you made me pick, that's the route that I would go. These are very fine lines between what the wind looks like, when it's going to come, if this is going to be accurate or not, will it be impactful, all that stuff. The only thing I'm seeing, no, and it's pretty consistent in terms of the direction as well. The only other thing would be Friday morning's a little bit of a different direction, north-northeast as compared to from the west-northwest. Not a huge deal. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, but that's the way that I would go. And then if you do have a one and done selection to make, Max Grazerman is by far and large the most selected golfer for this week, about a third of entries. Now, the other thing is Cameron Young is still checking in at about 12%. Cam Young withdrew, I think it was this morning. My time zones, we left Australia Wednesday at 11 a.m. and got to the West Coast Wednesday at 9 a.m. or 7 a.m. So we went back at that. So I don't know what day this happened, but Cam Young did WD. I think it was this morning. And that likely is going to push even more towards Max Grazerman. So if you're front running, if you're looking to just kind of hold your position, roll with the favorite, Max Grazerman, click and move on. After that, you kind of get a lot of really interesting options. Harris English and Lucas Glover are next, and then another gap to Doug Gim and everybody else who is sub 5%. I think if you wanted to, if you don't go with Max, I probably would go with I think Doug Gim would be okay. I'm a little bit bullish on Lucas Glover. We can talk more about these guys in depth, but that's the way that the numbers are starting to bear out here. All right, let's get into some of these questions, see where we're at. Man, first question, thoughts on Tway, Norlander, and Chappell. How would you rank them? Yeah, baby. This is what I want. Let's get steep on this. So, I think it's probably going to be Norlander, Tway, and then Chappell, but let's look at this together. My website, rickrungood.com. I'm just going to zoom in for your purposes here. All right, let's do Tway, Norlander. We can compare these guys a couple of different ways, and then Chappell. I think I know what Norlander has been up to. He's been just lights out, and he cannot putt. This is over the last 36 rounds. He's 7,300. He is the most expensive, about 6.5% projected ownership. Then Tway, 3.5%. He's been pretty bad. All right, so let's look at Tway and Chappell because I know what Norlander's been doing. Norlander's been flushing it, and he hasn't been able to putt. But if you look at his results, they've been pretty decent leading into this event. But Chappell and Tway, we've got to get steep on. Kevin Chappell has played. Okay, he did go and play a couple of European Tour events. He's missed his last two cuts. He doesn't have a top 20 since the Barracuda Championship. The metrics are not particularly exciting. Kevin Tway has always had at least one pretty darn good skill set. At times he's driven it really well. Right now he's putting it just lights out. I mean, he's gained in 6 of his last 7. The short game is strong. The approach play is really, really bad. I would probably go definitely Norlander 1, then probably Tway and Chappell. I hate the way that Tway's approach play is going. He's making up for it in other ways. I do like that he is capable of kind of putting together some top 15 finishes. Tway feels a little bit more volatile than Chappell does, but if that's what you're looking for, that's probably the order that I would put them in. All right. Actually, we could do one other thing. We could just get real freaky on this here. So if we go to the head-to-head matchup tool, the head-to-head matchup tool also has a 3-ball tool in there. Let's see what the last 36 rounds, what this would say for those 3. So let's do Tway versus Norlander versus Chappell. We can put a little number behind this as well. This is the last 50 rounds. I'm going to put it to 36 for these guys, and we'll let this model run its little number crunch here. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. All right. So this has Norlander winning a 3-ball 50% of the time. So about even money. And then Chappell actually just edging out Tway 15% to 13%. So those two are very close. And Norlander seems to be the obvious number 1. All right. That was a little steeper than I wanted to get, but let's go. DFS Chef, smash the like button. Appreciate it. 2v2, Grazerman, Highsmith, or Gim Hoey. Seems like from an ownership perspective that Gim and Hoey would be the way to go, since most of Young's percentage will probably go to Grazerman. Yeah, I think that is certainly the case. I think that most are just going to opt, if you had Grazerman, you're just rolling, if you had Cam Young, you're just rolling with Grazerman if you could afford it, which I think it was only I think it was $200 was the difference. So that's going to push Grazerman up, and then Gim is at 17%. What was the other two? Hoey is down here at 14%, and then Highsmith is at 3.2. Okay. So here's the problem. I'm a huge Highsmith fan. Not only for this week, but kind of until proven otherwise. And the reason for that is the gains that he's made with the putter. I've talked about this a couple of times, but if you haven't heard by now, he's doing 3 very unique things with his putting grip. He is going right hand low, so that's opposite because he's a left-handed golfer. He is going with the claw grip, and then he has reversed the claw grip. It is very, very strange. You don't see a lot of guys do that, and immediately he starts putting well. And it's good news because his tee to green play was so strong. So you give me the best player in the field and the guy that I'm probably the most bullish on, I'll take those two over Gim and Hoey. Chris says, hey, Rick, glad you're home safe. Thank you. He was 23rd, 5th in 2 of his last 4, shot 66 first round of Zozo, and we've seen him go low at Craig Ranch. Can we look at KH Lee? I was wondering where we were going with that. Sure, let's take a peek at KH Lee here. T5 at the Shriners. He's played this event a lot. Remember, this is just the second year that we're going to be at the Diamante Resort. Struggled here last year. His fall's been pretty good, though. I'll give him that. Yeah, I think this is okay. I mean, listen, the problem with KH Lee is I don't think that there are he's gonna have good weeks, but I think they're hard to figure out. So for example, the fact that he has like a 9-stroke difference in strokes gained putting over his last 2 tournaments, so a plus 4.8 and a minus 4.4. That's fine, right? And you see he bounces back and forth all the time. It's just what are we going to get on the putting surfaces? If you look at his around the green play, that's strong. If you look at his approach play, that seems to be trending well. And then the Zozo Championship, very, very different off the tee than this week. So if he loses 1.8 this week, you could see some positive rebounding towards a better number because he usually drives it well. So I think that we're going to see improvement off the tee. What version of the putter are we going to get from KH Lee? It was very good last year. 5 strokes he gained on these putting greens. So I think, Chris, that's a pretty good call. Who would be a good first round leader? Okay, let's go to the golfer profiles here. Let's go to strokes gained distribution. Let's go to make sure we're on strokes gained total here. Give this a second to load. Let's look at guys who gain at least 5 strokes and how often they might do that. Grazerman's at 14%. That leads the field. JJ Spawn. Ooh, interesting. I could see Rico Hoey giving you a good number. He gains 5 or more strokes 11% of the time. He's got all the firepower in the world. He's playing some of the best golf he's ever played, at least that we have documented. I'm going to pull up his numbers real quick. I already know what's in there, but I want to look at it together. Yeah, I mean, this is just beautiful stuff. His fall has been really good. That it's not just the fall; it dates back to June of last year, July of, I guess it wasn't last year, of the previous season. So I'm going to say Rico Ho would be a pretty good one here. With Cam Young withdrawing, who would be your suggested plays near the top? As leverage plays, now the ownership will likely increase. Yeah. So I think if you just don't play Max Grazerman and just start in the 9K range, I think that is going to make you different enough from like a third of all of the lineups. Then when you go to the 9K range, that's pretty spread out. As long as you avoid Keith Mitchell, you're not getting anybody who's going to be like 20% ownership or anything like that. So that's kind of well in check. And then once you start going down and trying to be different, we talked about Joe Highsmith being very low in the projected ownerships. If you look at somebody like Taylor Moore, who has put together like 1 or 2 decent rounds as of late. Actually, I should give him more credit than that, because he's going T42, T29, T11. I'm just thinking about the hot start that he got off to. I believe that was at the Zozo. It was gave some of that away on on Saturday. But look at, 3 out of 4 really good rounds at the Zozo, 3 out of 4 really good rounds at the Shriners, 1 out of 4 really good rounds at Sanderson Farm. So you're talking about, I don't know, like 8 of his last 10 rounds being pretty good. That would be very interesting to me, because I'm a believer long-term of his talent. Nasty Nate Lashley deep dive. I think he's worth playing in GPPs and wanted a second opinion. Okay. I actually, before I pull this up, or as I pull this up, I forgot to mention this on Monday. I forgot to put it in my email newsletter. So my brain's been all over the place this week. I did get a lot of exposure to Nate Lashley in the Listener League, which is on Splash. It looks like this. There are still about 60 spots left at last refresh. You just pick from each one of the tiers. So when I got to the tier that Lashley's in, I want to say he's in 5 this week. I can't remember. I found myself clicking his name a bit more than I thought. So I thought he was a good run there. This is a guaranteed prize pool. So whether this fills or not, it's I haven't been able to play in the last couple of weeks because I've been in Australia. So it's nice to be back in this, because I've been doing really well in this with the guaranteed prizes. So the link is in the description there. It's $20 an entry. It's going to be paid out in full guarantee. Go get involved in that. And then here's the Lashley stuff. So I tend to agree with you. If you look at his fall after missing the cut at the Pro Core, it's basically gotten better every single week. He does this thing where he can hit it really, really well on the second shot off the tee here. Listen, if these fairways are wide, there is no rough. If he's missing these, like, he was going to struggle anyway. Just let it fly out there, go find it and hit it again. Because after that, he turns into a pretty decent player. We still have a putting problem, but Paspalum tends to level out some of these guys. The last time I saw the stimp, I think it was going to be between like 11 and 12, which is pretty slow by PGA Tour standards. So I think this is a pretty decent spot to run out Nick Lashley. Finished 10th here last year. Didn't even think about that. Good call. How we doing? Tired, but we are going to roll. Excited, happy to be back, but we're going to rock and roll. With Ryan Gerard Monday queuing, anything from his KFT season that could suggest he would be competitive this week? Good call. Haven't thought about him in a while. I liked his game when he Mondayed in. He Mondayed into a couple of events last year, did he not? So, oh boy, I think they did him dirty on the shading here on this profile, unless that's actually his tan line, but I doubt that. I think they did him a little bit dirty. Let's see here. So he did play through the Korn Ferry Tour Championships. Actually had a decent run until like their last handful of events: T7, T3, T23, and then he finished 44th at the Korn Ferry Tour Championships. He won an event back in June. This is about as consistent as you're ever going to see on a PGA Tour, or excuse me, a Korn Ferry Tour profile. You usually see a lot of second, third, miscut, ninth, miscut, that type of stuff. He's got 2 missed cuts. They came back to back in August. Other than that, a bunch of really good finishes here. No chance he's played this event, has he? Oh, he did. He played it last year. Gained 2 strokes on approach. Lost 4.5 putting. Yeah, okay. I like that. What's more popular this week? Stars and scrubs or balanced? Probably balanced, just because people will. I think 70% of people at least are going to forego the Max Grazerman, and then you're going to get just a bunch of like 9K guys or a bunch of 8K guys. And also when you look down to the 6K range, it's there's only like 3 guys that I think are pretty reasonable. So yeah, I think it's going to be more balanced this week. No, you touched on it in your newsletter, but can we hone in on good and bad Paspalum putters specifically? Yeah. So a couple ways to look at this, Zach, and I know you know this, so I'll explain this to kind of everybody else. Paspalum it does not pop up on the PGA Tour often, and when it does, we usually don't have the shot link data. So if we look at just like pure Paspalum greens with the strokes gained putting numbers, you're dating back to 2020, minimum of 10 rounds. Ben Griffin's number 1, Ben Taylor's number 2, Brandon Wu is number 3. Now the problem is these might not all be measured. So let's see Ben Griffin's here. Are all 10 of his measured? No, only 4 of his are measured. Or actually 2 of his are measured because he missed the cut that week. So that's kind of the problem with this. So you do have to dive a little bit deeper. Ben Taylor has 28 rounds on Paspalum, but only 6 of them are measured in terms of putting. So we've really got to be smart about this. I want to see what Norlander has because he's such a bad putter. Imagine if he was just a POA specialist. Last time it was the Mexico Open, which was earlier this year. He gained 7 strokes putting. That would be amazing for this week. So what I like to do is what you're referring to in the newsletter, which is taking all of their non-Paspalum results, comparing it to their Paspalum results, seeing what the differences are, seeing if we can find specialists, and we're almost just making the assumption that they putted well. If you played a stroke above your baseline, you probably putted well. And just because we don't have the lasers to show it, I think it's interesting. And this is Paspalum throughout, right? So we're talking tees, fairways, approaches, all that stuff. So the names that stick out that we've kind of talked about a little bit already, like Nate Lashley is 9th. He gets a 1.2 stroke per round boost on Paspalum than normal. Alex Smalley is 7th. Brandon Wu, who's struggling right now, was 1st on that list. I see there's going to be a question coming up here about Austin Eckroat. He's 15th on that list. Our defending champion, Erik van Rooyen, 13th on the list. So you can kind of see we're obviously making some assumptions here, but we don't have the entire picture. Did Higo's DP World Tour wins coming over happen on Paspalum? Oof, boy. Those were the Canary Islands, right? He went back-to-back in the Canary Islands. Do not quote me on that. I believe that's right. I'm not sure if they're Paspalum. I'd have to go look that up. I'm going to skip that question, Michael, for a second. I'll come back to it because I've already kind of alluded to the Austin Eckroat stuff. Eckroat is another guy that I've gotten some exposure to in the tiers. You talk about the ability to get to 25 under par, 27 under par, whatever that is going to end up being for this week. I think 27 was the number that Erik van Rooyen won it with last year. The 5s are gettable. There's a couple of short 4s. There's really not any trouble. Their defense out there. I think that Eckroat could do that. His play recently since the Wyndham has gotten a lot better. Still can't putt, but that Paspalum stat is kind of what pumped him up my ranks a bit, is because he does play better on these surfaces. So I am going to end up having a bit more exposure of him. Favorite part of Australia golf. I could go on for days. Just 2 things that jump directly into my brain is that everybody walks, usually with a push cart, or as they call them, trolleys. Very few electric carts, and some places you need a medical note to get one. Now those courses are built to be walked, which is great. I mean, there's a ton of courses in America. Of course, I play at most here. Like, I would not want to walk it because the tee boxes are so far from greens and all that stuff. So they're built to walk, but I love that. It becomes a, when you walk a golf course, you really get more into the round. It becomes a little bit more of a, I don't want to say athletic, but like an athletic thing, like a workout almost. That's one. And then number two, and this beat me up a lot, or especially early in the trip. There's just so many ways to play the golf courses. And a lot of the time it's played on the ground, and you hit shots. And not only do you have to think about, okay, where am I going to hit this? But like, what is it going to do when it lands? And you no longer have control of it. And I probably putted from off the green more in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 3 years. And they just do such a really good job of taking that natural undulation and not. All right, one final thing. So like golf courses are not necessarily tricked up, right? Like a lot of times in North America, you see, okay, we've got to put bunkers here. We've got to really narrow these fairways. We've got to put water everywhere. And they're like tricked up. A lot of times there's not that much trouble. It's like bunker, but like the way the greens roll off on the sides, they're raised greens. They just use like the natural undulation to just like beat the crap out of you. Heading to Vegas, are you going to be at Circa Saturday, Tuesday at all? Probably not, Jim. I'm going to be sleeping is probably what I'm going. And I've got a lot of stuff I've got to catch up on, but I hope you have an absolute great time. Welcome back, mate. Appreciate it. Rate the last man in, Higgs, Gonzalez, or Bryan. I cannot remember if I did the Wesley Bryan stuff on this show yet. I'll do it right now, because I also thought there was another question about Wes Bryan that I saw. I'm quite bullish on Wesley. It is, I don't really know what's going on off the tee. He has now picked up strokes, at least 1.1 in every event dating back to the Wyndham Championship. If you remember, for a very, very long time, I almost called him Wyndham Clark. Wesley Bryan is very accurate off the tee and very short. And I think I'm guessing he's picking up a little bit of distance here. I don't know that for sure. I can go back and look. I'm not going to waste your guys' time right now. But if you look at this, very strong off the tee. The putter has always been sound when he's been healthy, and we're getting some decent results. T13, T37, T21 this fall. Again, he was a lot of my tier 6 guy on Splash. Like the confident play we're getting right now. The fall's been very, very good to him. I don't think this is the greatest course in the world for him, but I think that it's certainly not the worst, if that makes sense. Hey, Rick, think of jamming Molinex. Feels like good value at 6,900. Talk me off of him. Well, I can try, but I'm not sure I'm going to. Ooh, okay. Well, Shriners was ugly. Black Desert Championship was pretty good. He lost. Wow. He missed the cut in just horrible fashion at the Shriners. Oh boy. All right. What are the positives, I guess? He's played in Cabo twice. Neither of them are at this golf course, and they date back 8 years, and he's missed the cut in both of those. He's coming off a horrendous missed cut. He did have 2 okay finishes prior to that, but it was not really telling in any way, because one, he lost strokes on approach, the other one, he and putting. The next one, he didn't, and played a little bit better, but we didn't really get the full upside. I'm not sure what the positives are, I guess. So it's hard for me to talk you out of this when I'm not sure why you were talked into it in the first place. No, I mean, listen, if there's something you like about Trey, rock and roll, but this is probably not exciting enough for me. We did look at Wesley Bryan, which is great. Gim, Glover, or Vegas. I'm going to say it's Gim, but I do want to give a little bit of a shout to Johnny Vegas here, because I have written him off a lot in the last couple of months. And I think that was right. But listen, let's evolve a little bit. Let's see what's going on. And I think we're getting now enough of these tangible putting gains. So long story short on him, if you go back and look at his career, he's just a miserable putter. And even when he does putt well, it doesn't always lead to good finishes. He picks up 4 strokes putting at the Canadian Open, only finishes T27. He did it again and won at the 3M Open, but then these other two, 1.5 +3, top 30s, but that's nothing crazy. If he is going to gain 2 strokes putting every single week, Johnny Vegas is going to be a problem. He is such a flusher. So I think that he is definitely trending in the right direction. Also, while I'm thinking about it, is that the Bloodline logo that he's wearing, which is that putter that stands up by itself? Is that true? I don't know what that logo is. It reminds me of the Bloodline. I don't even know if they're still in business. Is he using a Bloodline? Because that would kind of make sense with some putting improvements. I don't know. I'm doing rampant speculation here. I don't know about that. But while I'm thinking about this, I can tell you about the standby underdog portion of the show. Woof woof. That's what Armina usually does, but I think she is passed out right now, and I just do not blame her one single bit. So what I did is, because we're talking about Johnny Vegas, is I fired this. Can I make that smaller? This entry for round 1, which is Vegas lower than 68.5, Wesley Bryan lower than 69.5, and then Joe Highsmith to finish inside the top 20 for the tournament. So two rounds 1 props on Underdog, and then the tournament long one for Highsmith. I believe we've touched on all of these guys thus far, so this should not surprise you. This is 2 guys I'm bullish on, especially with the putting improvements that I think Highsmith and Vegas are giving us. And then Wesley's, we talked about Wesley already playing pretty good golf. This is a 7.2x return. If these 3 hit, there's a link in the description for Underdog if you want to sign up and get the $1,000 deposit match. You can get this if you go to my Twitter or X or whatever. You can click this link and get like this exact entry loaded in for you, or you can just click it yourself. It's not that big of a deal. But the code is Rick. I was hoping to see if they were going to drop some fairways and greens, which I did not see because both of those are just massive numbers for this week. I did not see those, but those were the 3 that kind of made a lot of my core entries. Being high on Henrik Norlander, again, I don't need him to win, but finish inside the top 20 is a 1.3x. Michael Kim is a very good. I wish we had like the round 1 score for Michael Kim. Michael Kim's a very good long iron player, and there's a couple of long irons out here that are gonna really allow him to play into his strengths. So there's some good stuff. And then, like, if you wanted to buy in on Taylor Moore being a little bit back here, Norlander and Moore to both finish inside the top 20 is 4.4 times return. You can probably almost certainly get a better number than that if you have access to a sports book that would allow you to put those 2 together, but I know that not everybody has that. So Underdog, link is in the description. They've got a ton of new promos and vulture protection for the NFL, and they've got a ton of good stuff going on. But that's what I'm doing on the golf side of things. How bad are we missing the El Chameleon Trophy? One of the best ever. Do it. Stinks. Can we do a deep dive on Hoffman? Yeah. Sure. Old Charlie. Let's see what he's up to. Share my screen with you. Okay. What are you up to, Charlie? Finishes almost last at the Zozo with a pretty sour all-around performance. Misses the cut at the Shriners, losing a stroke and a half there. He was pretty hot before that, was he not? I mean, look at the tee to green numbers leading into this. Some decent results. Has he played here before? I want at Diamante. Yeah, I'm out. Sorry. Listen, if I get burned by Charlie Hoffman, that's fine. But we've got 2 pretty bad performances in a row. A record at this golf course that is bad. Very bad. A record in Cabo in general, outside of he won this event, different golf course, 10 years ago. And since then, he's missed the cut every single event except for 2. And the only 2 that he's made the cut, he has not finished inside the top 40. Very bizarre set of results. And then just the recent form seems to be cooled off. And I think he's kind of streaky too, right? He goes through this like miscut, T50, miscut, 57th, gets hot, might be cooling off again. So sorry, Chuck. You're not gonna see it from me. Thoughts on Norlander? We talked about that a lot already. Emiliano Gonzalez or Highsmith? Yeah, I've talked about Highsmith enough, so for sure. And then if we do there's probably a ton of Gonzalez's in the database. Emilio Gonzalez, he's $6,600. The data that I have on him is Corn Ferry Tour data. It's pretty good. Bunch of top 30s, T3 at the Simmons Bank. I don't know a ton about him. I've got very little shot link information on him. What I do have, it looks like he drives it okay, more accurate than long. It looks like he probably doesn't make enough birdies. If my two options were him or Highsmith, it would be Highsmith. Vince Whaley deep dive. Oh, the whale in Cabo. Should we? Boy, there's a lot to hate about this. He's a very good putter, but he's not going to gain 9 strokes putting again like he did at the Shriners. He might gain 5 or 6, but he's not going to do that again. He is hemorrhaging strokes off the tee. He's lost 15, 16 in his last 5 starts. Approach play's gone. I mean, this is wholly reliant on the short. I mean, look at this. If I extend it out and show you the ball striking and the short game numbers, this is insane. There's probably not another golfer like this who is so reliant on the short game stuff, which is crazy. I want to look at some of his other numbers down here though, and just kind of see. I mean, he does make a ton of birdies. Boy, I worry a lot about that. Yeah, it's not for me. Might be for you. It's really not for me. Fishburne, Berger, or Eckroat. Already spoke about Eckroat. Haven't really spoken about Patrick Fishburne or Daniel Berger. Let's check on Berger. I've been thinking that Berger is close for a long time. Shriners, he had 2 very good rounds before the weekend. Yeah, he's just not put. Yeah, this is. How do you want to view this, right? 8 of his last 12 rounds have been really good. 4 of them have been bad, and it's kept him from putting together some really good performances. I don't know where he's at in his game. Did he play this last year? No, of course he didn't. I would probably go Eckroat and probably Fishburne, just because I know those guys have been playing better. Fishburne has actually cooled off a little bit. Maybe I would sneak in Berger second, but we know Eckroat is healthy. We know this is probably a good golf course for him. We know that he can fill it up. Fishburne hasn't been bad. He just has kind of cooled off a little bit. The approach plays go. I mean, I guess I could put Berger in front of Fishburne, just because I might be catching him on the up, and clearly the pedigree of Daniel Berger is leaps and bounds, or as my Aussie friends say, heaps better than Patrick Fishburne. So it's still going to be Eckroat getting the full nod though. Harry Hall deep dive. Yeah. So I haven't spoken about him, but why wouldn't Harry Hall continue to play well? He's been playing well since the summer. The concern about what he was going to do after a home game at TPC Summerlin, and then what is 8,000 mile trip or whatever to Japan to play a completely different golf course. What was he going to do there? He's going to finish T13, and he was going to put together a stat profile that is very similar to the stat profile he's put up everywhere. Right. So what we get from him is he might be the best putter on the PGA Tour. And he might have one of the best short games on the PGA Tour. So he has gained strokes putting in every event dating back to the Charles Schwab Challenge. And I'm not talking about like a half a stroke, 1 through 5, often multiple strokes. Short game, very, very good. We're getting improvements, not always together, not at the same time, actually rarely at the same time, in the ball striking. Picked up 3 off the tee at Zozo, picked up 4 on approach at Shriners. Kind of going back and forth, driving it well, second shot struggle, second shots are going well, struggling with the driver. Either way, it hasn't stopped him from putting together good performances because the short game has been insane. And I mean, guys like this can fill it up. He's been, I mean, I'm just gonna go to the power rankings here just for kicks. If I can find it. Where did it's right here. Last 36 rounds. Yeah, I didn't even have to change anything. Last 36 rounds, Harry Hall is the best player in this field. 1.68 strokes gained per round. It's raw strokes gained. Say whatever you want about it, but he is the best player in this field. 1.58 for Grazerman, 1.37 for Fishburne. Let's go a little bit more recent, 24 rounds. Let's see where Harry Hall falls. 4th. Okay. Let's go 16 rounds. Where does Harry Hall fall? Well, I got to change the minimum rounds, I suppose. That would make sense, Rick. Let this load. 3rd. Okay. Like, we're just getting a really, really good run of golf from him. Hey, Rick, looking refreshed, buddy. I appreciate that because I do not feel refreshed, but thank you. Thoughts on Harris English? He seems back. Yeah. So I've probably talked about him on the Monday show, but just in case, the really good sign from Harris is he appears to be healthy. When he is healthy, he is probably in this field a top 8 player when healthy. And when healthy, he does this. Gains throughout the bag. And I've mentioned this now a bunch about one of the more predictive things, one of the most predictive things about the upcoming week is when a golfer gains throughout the bag. It usually says a good week is coming. He's done it now 2 weeks in a row. It's not foolproof, obviously. And there are some guys that skew that, like Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele, who do it every single week. But the Jake Knapps of the world. There's somebody else who's in the midst of a run like this right now. Is it Doug Gim? It's somebody. Gosh, it's going to kill me. Who is putting together these really well-rounded performances. Apologize. I probably talked about it on the Monday show, but apologies for not being able to put it together. But yes, that is a really good sign for Harris English. And I think Harris English, the next, I don't know how many he's going to play with 3 events to go. Is he going to play in Bermuda? He's definitely going to play at the RSM because that's a home game for him. It would not be surprised if he won one of those. How are we feeling about General Patton Kazire at 7,600? Haven't heard talk about. We liked him a lot recently. Has he fallen off? I don't think he's fallen off. I just don't think that we got, the weird thing about this sometimes is you see the trend, you see him trending. If he stops improving, even if it's not going backwards, but if he stops improving, people just kind of forget. So the win, T11, T43 miscut. Yeah, it might be going in the wrong direction here. Hold on. Played really well here last year. T15, gained 5 strokes from tee to green. Can we forgive him for this? Which is the miscut at the Shriners. Excuse me. I really try hard not to. That was a yawn. My bad. I think we can forgive him for that, right? It was 3 weeks ago. It was the first time he'd lost strokes from tee to green in 5 starts, and he's only lost it twice since Honda, which was in March. So I think we can forgive there. And he's got a good result from last year. So I'm happy to be in on Patton Kazire. I'm at the end of the questions. I could just go to bed. I can stay. I'm happy to stay if we want to keep rolling. Actually, but okay, here's what, anything you want, throw it in. We'll rapid fire this. While you do that, I want to do this as well, because there is an event starting in Abu Dhabi in 5 or 6 hours, I believe, if you're watching this live, that has a very, very good field. Rory McIlroy, Terrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood, Joaquin Niemann, Shane Lowry, Rasmus Højgaard, Minwoo Lee, Adam Scott. I mean, this is a great field. Now, this course, Yas Links, I believe they're only on as well the second edition of. They used to play this at Abu Dhabi Golf Links, I believe was the name of it. But this is a very, very strong field. And if you start looking at this, Terrell Hatton has been unbelievable. He's coming off the win at the Alfred Dunhill Links. He's got a bunch of finishes recently. Look at what Nicholas Norgard Moeller has done. He might be listed as Nicholas Norgard in some spots, so don't get super confused. But look at what he's been up to. Strokes gained off the tee. Bonkers. Yes, Rick Rungood has the strokes gained off the tee from the DP World Tour. Let's ride, right? What an improvement we've seen from him from kind of the, midpoint of 2023 to now, really good stuff. He's flying up the board in some of these power ranking categories. Rasmus Højgaard there as well. Hasn't really cooled off since his win at the Irish Open. Matt Wallace has been playing consistently good golf. Would I call it great? Yeah, maybe, but definitely just good. There's so much to like in this field. This is going to be a very, very fun tournament. Alex Fitzpatrick, Jorge Campillo. I mean, come on. This is a great field. I love it. Is there any approach buckets to lean on? This is kind of you get a little bit of everything. There are more long iron shots than a normal resort course would give you. So that kind of helps you. That gives you like I said, like Michael Kim. I bet you like, I think JJ Spawn's actually pretty good from like 200 yards and out, things like that, but a pretty well-rounded mix. It's not necessarily a wedge fest. Oh man. I mean, I don't know what tonight and tomorrow are going to be very weird in terms of time and not knowing what day it is and all that stuff, but what a trip. It was once in a lifetime stuff. Oh, I do not have a betting card. I mean, listen, I haven't had access to anything for like 3 weeks. So I will put something in tonight. On the spot. I have not looked at the numbers. I will probably bet Sam Stevens. I don't know what number he is. I'll probably bet Taylor Moore, and I'll probably bet Rico Hoey and maybe Austin Eckroat. I assume all those guys are like 30 to 60, something like that. And that might just be the card. Guys that haven't been talked about, I do like Sam Stevens quite a bit this week. I like Neil Shipley quite a bit this week. Neil Shipley probably won't make the outright card. I want to be early on Taylor Moore. I think we talked about that already. Matty Schmidt has continued to look better each week. Completely agree. The only problem I have with Matty Schmidt is that he has not played well on Paspalum. In fact, he is one of the worst. He's one of the anti-specialists. He is actually, let me get rid of this. He's losing a stroke per round on Paspalum than on other grasses. It's only 10 rounds, and you can say that means something or it doesn't mean something, but that is the only concern. The rest of Matty Schmidt looks awesome. He's using the broomstick putter. He is rolling everything in. The ball striking is there. Like, it's the only one little concern. Otherwise, Matty Schmidt is awesome. Chesson Hadley can score with the best of them. It's generous. Any consideration for him? Let's look. First off, let's see if he can score with the best of them. Birdie average, 109th on tour. Birdie or better percentage, 110th on tour. Tough to say. Okay, let's see what he's been up to recently. Hemorrhaging strokes around the green, bleeding them off the tee, losing on approach. I have no consideration for Chesson Hadley, Ryan, which means he'll probably win this golf tournament, but zero interest from me. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fire some bets. Says he stinks. Got it. That's funny. Listen, I mean, golf's weird. We see guys like this do things all the time, but yeah, he kind of stinks. I appreciate everybody. We are back in the swing of things here. So I've got a notebook full of things that I'm going to be updating on rickrungood.com. And some will be obvious to you. Others will not. But I am back now, well rested. Not yet, but will be well rested and laser focused, and spending a lot of my time on the site and the content and everything else. As we finish out 2024 and 2025. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I appreciate all of you for hopping in here. I think that is it. I'm going to end this. Yeah, I did have a pie, and that's not for me. Meat pies are not for me. Just really not. Okay. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll talk to you soon.